Okay. I think at the end of last session, maybe there was one group that still had a question about writing. So we would like to invite that table if they still have a question.
So 당보대 전참대라야 아니 더를 과치기 좋아요 주게 저도 당보는 지주 당저 주게 좋아요 주게 남으로 마선세 단다 지출라 좋아요 뒤에바이나 아니 단다 좋아될 거예요 그때 인사.
page 2 yes mare.
That's no questions.
Okay.
수준 발생 저제 있었다.
The other question we had is just to ask if Tenzin La and I are speaking and presenting information too quickly or too slowly or just right. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to look at your photo. If it's you would like this pace, then give us a thumbs up. If you think the pace is either too fast or too slow and you don't like it, do a thumbs down. But you have to hold your hand up high.
단다 대 함선 체야당 저요 주게 조지 당기 인스타데 컨텐츠나 단다 함선 체야게 지가 뉴스에도 주어와 대 컨텐츠도 주래도 스와 아니 따따레도 삼게 바이나로와 따따레도 아니 따따레션 적세 따따레샤 삼게 바이나 아니 라파야 자데 대봉데 야테로 지스투스 로 아니 조타도 다 양나 선진 체야게 적세데 조타도 다 양나 양 대타도 바이나 라파야 자데 대봉데 마텐로 지사.
야 지금 좀
Okay, so looks like
maybe Tengyong will help us.
Okay, so mostly thumbs up for the people who have thumbs sideways or thumbs down. Do you want it to be faster or slower?
다 만신식이 대본야 된샤스 가시게 대본 텔라 된데샤스 가시게 마터 된데샤스 다 제슬로 좀 바이나 아니 가르치고도서 진조 당고도에 제대 당고도에 가르치고도서.
So maybe ABC is better, I think.
I know, I realize but we've done this already now.
Yeah, namo so nge yogo indaro AD naroa ani jose tagda digdos BD na tetashas ta nyobdo chuchagodos nazo nejudige yosteroshes karelabe ne ani CD we na gyotashas tagda digdos AD che ani BD gyot tetashas ani CD gyotashas CD speed do CD gyotashas ero che BD tetashas AD tagda reshas. So any
Okay, so is A?
Okay, I think it's A. I think that's
A is okay.
This 1B.
Okay.
1B.
All
Okay,
right,
it's
but
a little
the
slow.
majority is
Okay.
A. Okay,
Okay, that's good.
good. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we're trying to pace at the middle, so that's what I just want to tell them.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And the lovely theater, the mountain, the lovely chedang or into some Tagegun theater, those Justin Budrol. The Gitangazi to do some Bakadine, the Tagda Doji, then some Doji, Chue, Revachi, any the Kashil test Tetagi, so that Kapshi hard to Tagi roll. Any the Chain Mangchel, the patient dig user and Chena Tisha and Yavuchana. I think we are doing good, I think, overall.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I mean, if we are in person, then we can see if people are confused or not. It's a little challenging on the Zoom.
Yeah. So, the Zoom now you some tos can Kalahaudola, Nangus, Yovina, and Yang Hashel, Tetani, the Yang Hotel Pabian and Vivia, need to Shabbatisho roll, that you Lagachi Shabbat and Tishora, the net additional test Kalahauration, the Genium Tang Manchel Digius and Gatanato, Tarang Doshituila. No. Okay, maybe you want to begin this, Mina.
Yeah. Yes, so now we are going to talk about, in this session, about visual problem solving, using images to help us tell a story.
다 단대 소통 되는 가지고 그 벌을 때문에 딱 간요 세기 답변치 어와티 것도 지기 인스타 뒤에 값을 갈수 걸었으나 파당 지금 답변인다 배치 당대때 안에 뒤다 간요 세라 간을 배치 당고 요메티 공부도 지인스
진짜 다른 게 I think should I go over
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
아 드링기 튠 입어줘라. 단딩이들이 야다 디종 톤이 봐. 디베 톤에 다 시종 배치. 드링 버리단 데 톤에 다 시종 배들에 당부디 다디 튠드 차베 젤리야 아니 버리기 보내 아니 간요세 다 간디 지도고 예매줘라. 럽디 치당 갑을 탑람 직체. 안디네 디 버리 톤에 아니 탑람 간요세 탑람 디 계신보인 바 남부 속에 디시 잡도 그랬어. 디 초대 차베 젤리야. 당한 저기 레워디 되래. 안디네 버리리야 댄시 아니 단단디나리아 케이스 스터디스 치도라. 다디 십제직 소리스다. 다디 인규 룸 마소나다 직 니주 찾아오 제줘라. 버리 톤에 제줘라. 다디 락다 토바 남부 어디다 초된 되게 미유치기로라. 안디네 아니 버리기 간예 세단 줘라. 간요 셋업 되게 톤에 아니 롭젠 차교 치단 줘라. 디낭로라 아니 디샤 롭젠 참말 때 요거 말에 롭젠 가시나는데 샤베나 니 샤단 되게 나부 킹그레스 다디 가지기 미유시듯이.
Okay, so last time we showed you a couple of photographs, and these images can be used in teaching, but we can also, so you can go to the next slide also. This time we are going to talk about how we can use images to show graphs and data.
단다 데라야 안가수 계산 prakhashi 텐데다 벌라 텐데다 아니 중간으로 치고요베 디더시자요 레스타 디랭가수 per 주스 그러다 프라나라야 아니 치퍼타 아니 퓨리요와 디다도 아니 간다도 치페치탄 거 메트데시자긴스.
So we would like you to think about two steps that are important in visual problem solving. The first is being very clear about what observations we can make, and then secondly, how we make inferences from those observations.
단다 치주 벌라이치 타비 값스 딜라야 아니 그 가서 구르메니 다우치라 삼로 타오치스 담보테 가서게 다십가리 짓그레스 가리가리 통고도 스파르텔라티니 데티로와 어때지 니바텔라야 데이터라티니 데이터로 가서 통와 데이터라티니 데이터 가서게 니 제파가리 짓그레 다 dom직간으로 지자득 사레스 데고 삼타오치스.
And usually inferences are about why something is happening and why it's important.
다 가서게 제파 집이 값을 지금 삼로나 적던 그 삼로나 그거 때 가르치니 좀 거여나 대단 아니 때 가르치니 개첨벌에서 때 걸러 삼던 거였어.
Okay, so graphs and images are very important because they can communicate data in succinct and engaging ways.
다 가서게 튜리당더니 라퍼티나 요와 때 아니 가서게 적던 그 개첨벌 차요레스 때 가르치서나 그 당가서 장토디파 못지야라야 측용 상동사서 측용 단세당에네 룰라베부간에 그 반대주 짓고요레스.
So when you look at an image that is sharing data, think about, is there a title present? Are there measurements that have been provided? Is there a scale? Are there symbols and colors that mean anything? And what does this information tell us?
다시 저거 바르티나로 지라야 타비캅스 스파르디라로 타비캅스 다 가리타고 그랬으나 텔라야 파텔라 티간라야 카창치도 문두스와 아니 티간라야 그게 천재치 땡도 문두스 텔라야 세탁도 문두스 엔테간라 그게 천탁다 카토데도 문두스 되게 가리치 참고되샤스와 템세네 파티기 아니 가출라 가리치 레주치기도 스타라타고 그랬어.
just before we move to the next slide, just take a minute and think about, you know, how you would interpret this map.
Nta de la sata chi to wa sata de ni chi chu kana do chi go lang gi ins wa long de kana do chi gi ins te ko la sam ta lo chi is.
I won't ask for the answers. I just want you to write it down.
Te ma tiro chi is land de so so tutena tiro chi is.
I'm just going to give them less than a minute, Tenzin, just to get some.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see that some of you are still looking at the image. Some of you are writing. The first thing that I notice when I look at this is that this looks like a map.
Ta chi zo kashi chi ke tri de sha kashi chi ke ta no ba na ani parti la ta de shas. Ani ngarang du stabi kaps thampo de ngala ya kari to no chong so sena de kare sena de sata chi de dos.
The next thing I notice, it happens to be a map of the United States. And I notice that there are different colors on the map. So there's some red, some green, and then other places with no color.
Ta shenda de je la kari to no chong so sena de ari ge sata imba kan shla sati gang la ya chuncha ta marpo tang jang khu dos tim sa yang chuncha mukse me chu ge sa ko ti da dos.
So my question to myself is, what do the colors mean? And I noticed that there's something in the very top, which says in small letters, concentrations of imperiled biodiversity.
Ta tanda de la ro 이 제라야 아니 천타도 스타 되게 가르치 청구요나 슬리 다스tambal아 강게 챙이 때라다나 아니 꾸티게 강라야 다 년칼라 치 년칼라 추베 아니 징외게 나초랑진 되게 아니 디체스나 야나 특체스 츠데트샤스.
So this is called the legend, and it's an explanation of how to interpret the map.
다 거기 챙이 세나티고레 다 데이트레스 다 되게 가르스 땡교레스나 아니 사타데 간데스 고알랭고요 메기다 무토기 츠지레스.
So in this particular map, the legend tells us that the green places are protected for biodiversity, and the dark red places are at most risk for losing biodiversity.
다 단단 되게 가르템 거레스나 정쿠여 사티로 천타 정쿠여 사티 아니 고 송초가 사쿠체 송초가 사쿠 딱 수치도 송초 지구요레스나 가서 징외 나초바와 징외 만부체도 징외 나초비랑 진체도 아니 송초 지구 사쿠당 아니 지금 말보 말나가 인사티 아니 양 지금 징외 라다니까 하천 지구 사쿠 어디 고요레스.
Okay, you can go to the next slide. So visual images are used by scientists because they can convey a lot of information in one picture.
다단다 산루파게 바이나 다다가 수 파르데 페초 마보당 그레스다 가르치라 바이나 그 파르 칸 찔라테데 다 니츠 망보지 코트치 그레스.
But not all students intuitively know how to read a graph. So teachers must help them just understand how to interpret them by pointing out the title, the legend, or key.
다 지던 걸 흡인 바이나 쿠탐푸니 카스 다 릴라오 가니 파르타 탄다기타 사타이난 비르 틴다 로야 아니 this couple years tampo네 부시 시신바티나 마데 담발라야 델랑오네 팔람튼티 지구 요레 스칸다스 로고 요메 아니 거기에 가장대 가르리도 되게질라 챙이 가르가르지도 델라 천덕 가르가르지도 대다 가르청구 요메디 니 기경오네 파고 지구 요레스.
And these tools help the reader interpret the image in the way that the image creator intended. Sometimes the creator of the image will also include some text to explain it, but if not, the image should be understandable on its own.
단단하게 대기에다고 가장당 생이당 선도당 데이터게 다 라차죠 데이터 이게 가려 팽그레스나 아니 다 퍼지 당부 존이 그런게 삼로 나나다 데이터 라틴 데이터 디나로치로 고알랭게 예 세게 삼로 나나지 티 난신 로파보게 아니 고알랭트게 제트 imbares tistabala tetola tene deta lopapu imbanta mishenda chiktaba imbana koge sata tamparti tranajin koalant kireswa ne samlaya kashi par zonya dinado yan ko chinyong ton dibu na tali parite kari chungu yome deshe jagres imbaina ya ti mepa imbaina ya koge gangla yochu ge nitsu tetola tene dete so lopamu ngone parite tus ko koalant kres.
Okay, so this is a think, pair, share activity. We would like you to work together in your, I don't know, in a group.
Maybe individually first, the word.
Okay,
or
all right.
Yeah,
okay.
And then they can go in groups.
Okay, so then don't go to the next slide yet. So individually, we'd like you to think about what is a good title for this image. And I will read the 4 options. A is that the United States has a lot of biodiversity. B is that the United States has green and red soil. C, excuse me, is that only a few places in the United States are protected for biodiversity. And D, most of the United States is protected for biodiversity.
The Geodicarella, Parshi Delaya Kashan Dogu Yopana Kashan, Takangage Dana Yahudos. That Dela Damka Shedo Watambote, E Delaya, Arilaya Ching, not from Bevodus, Gres. B Delaya, Arilaya Sajan Kutan Summer Pudus, Gres. Se Delaya, Arigisaku, Yonshishi Kuna, Miss Jimmy Natsupagicheto, Soncho Chiduta, Soncho Sakutiri Dusiguris. 아니 제데라야 아리사크 페치와테 지금 나서가게 제도 송추 지셔주 송추 사쿠들이 두스두스
tadi chudumana chera na susu gergi samju karim badi yoshodoya indaro di tamga dige seucha sol aso ani chi ni som
Did you ask them to work alone first? What is the?
Yeah, I think most of them are yellow, but I think there are a couple of D.
Okay.
Maybe 5, and then 1 B, I think, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, one or 2 Bs.
Okay.
There are 2
okay,
Bs
okay.
actually. There are 2
Bs.
Bs, 3 Ds, 1 A.
And most of them are C.
Rest are C.
Okay.
Okay.
So go ahead, Tenzin.
Retanamo di social sosu Q kudunaro naro di sosuigi tamgo kumzenta ni tamgo chikwa yimene ni kumze chikwa yosi yongcho mayi chogro ji somebody sosuigi tamgo kumze di pasu chishi kyonchi ni kudunaro na kamachik maybe give 1 minute.
Yeah. To find out if this is about soil or not. I think this is a place the on-site instructors can help, you know, because they. Tenzin, you should show this to your children and see if they can come up with good titles.
I will.
Yeah, because they don't teach this properly in school. That's what I think.
Yeah, school is very, very rigid. I think the curriculum and a lot of testing.
And I find that
content focused.
Yeah, they only teach how to read line graph, not how to read anything else.
So number 30 아니 양계지 의쇼록이 돌아. 아니 일단 주둔당 수시 하시지. I see some of them still discussing. Maybe.
Yeah. You can ask them to hold their card up again.
Yeah. Okay. That's all. 아니 잠깐 숨돌 의쇼 펜으로. That's all. 직 니숨. I think that now 직 니숨. So the okay.
There are still one B and one D.
Okay.
Yeah,
so they're able to
it.
convince the
That's all are
others.
C. One B.
Maybe B wants to explain why he selected
Yeah,
B.
why is it?
Yeah, gela 가르치네. B 가르치네. 얘 B라서 가르치네. 얘 B 가르치네. Yeah. B 담스 gela.
걔는 또 요쇼 루차르다. 그래서 임제 좀 나오고.
the Saturday time bang. Saturday the mode and Jangonika do and the Mindela California the Chido and the Nevada Chido and the Nalola and the mode and Jangonika do and the Bidilane Arilane Sako and Arilane Sa Jango the Mabudu lad.
By looking at the map, I see red and green on those places. I just chose the option B.
Yeah, so that is tempting, and that's why I want you to look at the legend. So the legend is that the bar above the picture, yeah, right there where you can see the cursor. And that is telling us that the colors are about the level of biodiversity and not the soil.
That tandanga so tampo data sama putong sa jangkurido saya lamni tugure simbaina yang di kapsanga so chenyi de la tago yo resta chenyi de la loba imbaina gange marpo ta jangku de arila atanga so desagoro jingye ge nacho rangshin katsu yeme ge chonggo yor ma tope 사기 간도 청구매바 단다기 창의되게 세턴지그레스.
Okay, let's try this with another image and keep practicing. Yeah.
지금까지 건다. 더.
맞아, 양식 벌전다 지라 다지 니데 단다기 제탄도 양식 정도 지기인스.
Yeah, and this is the correct answer. Only a few places in the United States are protected for biodiversity.
다다기 land 디바데 시디리스 아리사차 아리니고 진유기 제도 송축 사고데다 아니 가시 좀 말씀이 두세 디 시디 비오레스.
Because look, most of the country is not green, and only the green places are the protected areas.
사타가타 바이나 아리기 사자 배치와 정코리면 와서와 정코유에 바데 아니 사자 가시 지지 아니 정코유에서데 아니 그 송축 사고데레스.
No, the Dine and the Pari Nivash Tenayra numbers del Tegdola. 아니 디 디기 가장 직시나 근데 낭로기 단다 센제저라 메저먼트기 직시나 근데 스케일 저라 근데 당기다 테스 아 장도디 더 전난 디스 민다워도 딜 직시나 더라 근데 딜리아 시츄에이션 넘버 2기다 아 디네 니주 디게 파트 디게 차상 스테이션 넘버 2 니주 카리 아 라디오 연구도 라디네 디 하나 가지고 당기도 양게 외출로에 롤 파트들이 양게 직시나 동년 수수수 쓰러나 까마직 생각이 아니 파트들 때체 아니 델리아 담가 시요라 담가 시디 로 먹어지 넘버 많이 피신 로 도고 있을 텐데도 로도나 니 아니 로체 아니 파리 델리아 아니 가장 약쇼디 가르 잠바도스 가장 렌쇼디 가리 이미지 담가 되게 로 거서려라
So when you look at this, look on the image for what each dot represents. You'll have to look for that hint in the image. What does each dot mean?
다 단다게 제수가 발을 데이터비 값수 가리르다고 그래서나 아니 그 발을 되게 강라야 차 진출레리가 가리 선거에 메시지 걸어 차 진출레리가 담라야 그 세세게 이게 직주도가 세세제 이게 직주도가 대 가리 선거에 메됐다고 그랬어.
It's in very small print, but and it was not translated. So let me tell you it. It says each dot represents 1,000 people.
가진 진출레도로 다다데다 이 줄면도가 이마이랑 대 가서 그래서는 차레레게 미 동타식 선거에 라샤스.
나머지 로사는 아니 다들 로에 두고 거들라 아니 저디나 는 가서 외쇼 로에 있다 아
Pigeon to the insert.
loss 아니 직니 숨톨
Let me see.
So 차선 치입니다. Most of them are D. There is one with C and one with B.
Maybe, yeah, maybe one of those people who is different. Can you ask them how they got the?
Gela 같이 건드려. Gela C라. C 건드려. Gela C.
세 자야 돼 말해.
걔만 C 가르치는.
이게 세 받아야 저러 많다. 많이 따야 좋아. 세 따야 돼. 그래 된서.
아이 고맙습니다. 기다 거에 가시. 아프리카니 겹쳐 보면 민두 슬라이드다 시티. 디르베.
니를 비다더래.
나.
말아.
Oh, he was looking at a different thing actually. He was looking at something different.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But you know, if somebody had answered C, there are no refugees from African countries.
So he was looking at the previous slide.
Previous slide. Okay, no problem. But to me, this is important because if the learner doesn't have some background prior knowledge, then it might be challenging to give this type of graph for your class?
That didn't know anything capsicate and it hoped Genie de la and could Jabjungi Shishate and Yakume Pine didn't know you then Zendanala put a Bina and this Calikaburis.
Yep. So like you must have some basic geography knowledge. You know, Rwanda, Liberia, Ethiopia, Sudan. These are all African countries.
That they have seen by some come get any Tambo, Chitan Shishatis Google is that de la and Rwanda, Ethiopia, that they get the Kashichi Jaka Kashichi or any race and Africa Jaka race.
No. 제 넘어서 망제 따다 담샤 니 지난해 두스퍼리들 때보다 지난 디간 가장 디테도라 거기 로직이랑 로리 캡처와 가지고 충분히 좀 들어도 아니 단도 믹스기 유크레인디 콘도 천다 만다고 된도 된도 선바 란신기 될 믹스기 또 도난 채워야 식도 제주 선바 유크레인기 두저디 다워직 된 거라도 세 인셉션에 마치 조선바 다워직 나는도 셔바디게 찾아 로직이 장세라도 지도 선바 넘버스 망지 담데디 따다 차대셔던디 다워직이 난 로리야 아니 Ukraine ki capture ta ani Venezuela ki logic ki capture ni doubt chat udal.
So yeah, that image is asking you to make a lot of inferences in one image because you're comparing the values and comparing them across countries.
That the take particular by Bananga superiority Kane that Jepasia Sagorata, Jensen Jaya, Chitadum Jaya, the Mampuchi, Segadus, Tisha Bina Koge, Rere Galaya Tantulata, Netanto Rere, the agenda Turgo was Mampu Mampuchi Koge, Chugaki Dusti Kane.
Yeah. Okay, so here's another type of graph, and this one is common injuries for boys among popular high school sports. So this is for teenage boys playing American football, hockey, wrestling, lacrosse, which is I don't know if they know that game, football, or what Americans call soccer, and then basketball.
That they ancient that is Ratina, Ticadesana, Arigi, Talhota, Gambas, Rotalhota, also Jerem Tua, Gilaptaginalaya, any Pugunalaya, any Chitanga on Chap is the most civic of the Puchashi Kanlaya, and a mission poet or mission poetic remuchires. That Tampodim by a regi concept, a regi polo teacher, autumn pole teacher. Digital hockey, take a jella, as you jurata teacher, and take jella like cross like the jet, take a jella, as you concept polo, I guess opera concept polo teacher, take jella, and lots of police.
So take some time and look at this image and think about the title, the measurements. What are those values there, the numerical values? What is the scale? So the size of the colored circles. What do these all tell us?
Telaya Parjidela Tea, what the Taki Kari, Songudu, Samutaro cheese, the Kashan Karadoji, say Karadoji, thank you. And the Kuga Setan said, the Chichon Karadoji, thank you. And the Kolaya Santa de Caps, and the did the what Chichon did a gorgo, get Chichon dam that what they gonna line on like Chankaya dam that what. The talking also like Kari, Deshi Jago Yometicola sometimes.
Tenzin, should we ask them to
maybe they can volunteer and share whatever they're number to now Tanglana Sorona, the Pari Diltesh and the Kari Deju Tokutos.
There are lots of... Go ahead.
Any channel is
Chela Sonona.
Tantangye pari del tana tanda sonda tangyo sto agila. Sonda tangyo del American football tigi ta kyonja cheshu soyo ro sorgudura. De bana head injuries ro chena cheshu redo.
Alright.
Tikara, the yellow meta, the Karsa yellow Sinagare. Tikana number the Lamata Remuran Lata in a Remuchesha Dido.
All right.
And a Remuchesha Digita Karachungo Resna. Ko Kunja Chesha do you over the Chungus. Ankle Kansa Remo. Remo Tola Dreda, any armed Tola Dreda, some Remuchisha Dunjo Dig, any Kunchesha Yungu, but thing those.
Like even without looking at the numbers, the size of the circle, we can say which has the most injuries. For instance, American football, or the head, we can see a really big circle, and also ankle and the other part. We can tell that with the size of the circle, we can say in that sport that has most common injuries.
Yes, this is why I would not let my son play American football. What, anybody else? What other inferences can you make from this graph?
Gishitapkila has a question.
Yeah.
Yes.
If it's okay.
Yes.
Sidan danda bari de la tadu jangle da ordon bol dero American football la di gola me jun poya ge di shuk che do ta ina remote na lo la ta ina la wa do si de la wa yomba ma cha la ya tsemu di je ganga la wa yomba la chen so me be so do cha de do tinde inje mare sang do la wa yomba la chen sho ge gre la wa yomba ganga ta me be so to la wa yewa la chen ma nga sho ge be so chi remote hope de na di inje mare chi na la wa chi go ina kande na di remote ya kholo the ya do chi do
I caution that is we look at the picture. It is misleading as well, because when you look at the left hand, no injuries. I'm sure maybe it doesn't mean that only hands, not left or right.
Right.
It's misleading as well.
So that's a good observation that they're just showing you what part of the body, not the left or right. But that's a good observation. He is pointing out the limitations of how you interpret a graph, and that's also important.
But that leads to another confusion. Like, if you see the leg, you can see the circle on both the legs.
Yes.
So it's not telling you like, it's on one part of the body. It's telling you whether it's on the right or left also. Like, so it appears that maybe the injuries on the left hand may be very negligible per 10,000, that it may not be shown on this picture.
That's right. This is an example. Oh, I should let him translate this. Sorry. Dawa, do you want to?
Tada tigasda ya chichi bana ngasuka kamba gala ya dua kamba gala ya sochila yochu sochila mechu tira dua chichi na ya tangi tu skwala bana ya kasugune sochi tu durba bana jendala ya ko kasugure jendala chunchi ha chap chunchi imbadina ya chichi na isigres.
So this is an example where I would look at the text to find out exactly how the creator of this graph was intending for it to be interpreted.
That instambala ya ko ge ta gunyo thayag netang dinda yuza ata ngara imbaina ane de zuni chigor watanda ge parri de zuni tiga ngasula kanada uchi kualengo sares ta ko ngala ya chitri yorwa te trisha ju tsiti ngarang lo sares.
Okay, so maybe we can show. So we came up with many inferences. These are two examples. So one inference is that American football has many more head and ankle injuries compared to the other sports. And a second inference is that all of the sports have relatively more head injuries than other injuries except for basketball.
제박석으로 다듬데 그 집당에다 망보시위샤요 그래서 임바나다 데라양아 저니라고 지라 삼당 바이바나 제모신 참아 젠도 들바이나 아리게 가서 컴볼 지어라 아리 어떤 볼 지어라 되나나 네 고당 롱발라나 롱발라나 데도 앵콜도 롱발라야 아니 미쳐 마주 도스 미쳐 손이 다자마 버레샤스 당부터 되지 녀들라야 아니 럭세 폴리 셴바기로 럭폴리 셴바기 스무 참아 나라야 아니 지카서 그래 아니 골라야 미쳐 주야데 마도스.
So inference 1 is looking across all of the sports. Inference 2 is looking within each sport.
단데디 가서로 가서 때리셔가서 단단가 속에 다른 땅보대 바나 참말아야 가서 제목을 참말 라차피게 아니 다든지 제바다 아니 다들 제파 녀스 그러다 다들 이바대 바나 니 레레게 나라야 시샤데다 아니 다든지 주기를 dos.
Okay, so we already asked about other inferences. Okay, should I do this one? Okay, so here's another graph. This one you can see it says in the title here, you can see it says percentage of 15 to 24-year-olds who say the world is getting better with each generation.
따뜻한 데라야 그 가상들라다 바이나로와 아니 미 로로체 중앙에 니시스 시그바르로 주기미로와 그 속에 잠림데 아니 그 가스부터 메리어 리레이션 때 야드 주도 세신이 비자차트 청구요레스.
So again, we would like you to observe the title, the measurements, the scale, the symbols, and determine what these are telling us.
다 데라야 아니 지속이 되게 가장당 전제당 세다당 아니 나나의 주고 전도한테서 라틴에 되게 단다게 바를 때가 가수라 가르치 모토지기도 스티가 삼다로 제스.
Okay. Okay, so notice those two. In this one, there are two different parts of the graph that you should read, and then you can go to the next. What we would like you to do is in breakout groups, think about as many inferences you can make from the image. Do we want to put it in the chat box? Now I'm thinking maybe it's hard.
Yeah, chat box might not work because they are not in the Zoom.
Yeah, but we can have them just share with us.
Share, yeah. So we'll give like maybe 5 minutes. How much time?
Yeah, I think so.
Discuss ruganang kamangaringal ya chudunara ningazo kashish samdiya sonan.
And just remind them there are two parts of that that percent of 40-year-olds and the percent of 15 to 24-year-olds. They should look at both.
Paridelia and gandelia chema on ni dollar. They deterdelia change changing water dollar. The nigalia sironas.
Okay.
루카나는 트레더지도 다 제스나 트레더지데 되게 가리던 게도 세트 트레더지로 제사.
Actually, the timing is okay. This is good. Yeah.
Okay.
So do you want to talk about the two, finish this one for the next slide, and then I can...
This one and the next one, right?
Yeah, and I realize I'm going to remove slide 18. Are you in the Google slide?
Yeah.
Slide 18 says just for us.
But you're going down till slide.
Yeah, I'm going to
27,
take
right?
that out because I think we can keep going. So I'm removing that. So I'm going to go until now, slide 27, and then,
7.
or up until 28. I'm just going to tell them what they'll do in their morning session.
Yeah, this is a little complicated graph.
Mm-hmm. But I think it's one that might be of interest to them about happiness, optimism.
numbers of 30 na ani ruwa jingi ji sono na. I don't know whether they can hear us or not.
Oh,
They are still discussing.
Yeah, I think it's a good. I mean, I also have other questions when I look at this graph. I can make inferences, but I have other questions also. So we can start with the inferences.
yeah.
You ready?
Yeah, everybody is ready, I think. I've been to most of the groups, so everybody seems to be quite ready.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
So maybe some of the groups can share. Namazo sono na.
Ani shechinye the first group, first table.
디 바제 다 노르메나르다 알레 노르요나 하고 마스로 쇼 단다 디 지난 고라네 디 쿄요나로라야 티마네 렌지 텐도 티마데 렌디 강라 요와이나 지온네 제가 고란 나로 가레스나 아니 잠링디 야제 촐로 두고도 세니 망아 요도 청구이서레 다 간다 도스타이나 단다 페나 아리다부지도 아리다부디 고 도스다 틱 도스 제제 아리다부디 틱 파템바이나 로충어 청구이서라 야디게 단다 디 와티컬 디 디첨바이나 단다 디기 아니 가르자 잠링 야제 촐로 두고도 세니디 자자파치 둔주 던니 던숨데레서와 아리다부 첨바이나 US 다부 첨바이나 따이나 마 가독 템바이나 마 가독 제메기 오네 랜드 따위나 로치아 첨바이나 로치아 야제 두고도 라니데 자자파치 숨주 송아 딘데반도 레사마라와 치다 아리다부 지나 아니 로충에 디 가르소레 홉 치니 망아 요와도치 ngose 땡기도 삼기도라 다데네 야 인도네시아도 지바이나 첩사브레스와 이게 젤레 요인자 초징네 지용그 차네 미초용 고라네 즉 홉치니 망아 요와체 아니 디낭로네 야 로션바 틱스 망아 요와 페나 로션바 파템바이나 자주스 틴데 레사라 자주 쳔가스 자주스 레사라 마 템바이나 아니 로겜바데 템바이나 둔주 퇴가 둔루스데 다로야 로충에 홉치니 망아 요와도 다 자가다 단데디 아니 나이지리아 체 디타부 촌바이나 자가다 오지나 베지 직바다 오지르샤 다 나이지리아 인바이나 베지 대야 다보다보 차그메도 다 모로코도 오지나 때즈 로치아도 망아 메도 삼삼도 딕슬렉도 카인스나 로치아나라 디 모로코 단다 디 올덴도 마 따위나 아니 납줄렉도 파다이나 십주 십제 시고마도 레그메도 모로코나 롤라다 로치아게 홉치니 망아 요도 디 노르메나 나타디 망고 차스콘다.
Can you remember this dawa? All that?
If we look at the graph and if we say the y-axis represent the age group 15 to 24 and the x-axis represent age 40 plus, over here if we look at the US and it shows the younger ones are more hopeful, says they are more hopeful than the older one, and we see at the Indonesia may say like overall people are hopeful for the future, and younger ones are more hopeful if you look at the number, because there is about 80 for the younger ones and about little less than 80 for the elder ones. And also for India and Nigeria, India pretty much similar among the younger ones and older ones, and Nigeria pretty much the same. And also for Morocco, and over here we see for the younger age group is less than 50, but for the like older group 40 plus is very close to 50. So the elder ones 40 plus are more hopeful. So look at the graph, we can just read and interpret those things from the graph.
Anyone else want to share anything specific?
And that in yeah,
Yeah, group 3.
Hello, hello. Samatas lek ne nge samju la de khare. Handa graph de peje ni dong ni za ji gi jinda ni wa ne jinda chuba gi para la ani nyamshi de chidwa. Ta peje de khare. Handa to yi na za ta chi khare peje. Ani handa zamli yongzo la da chi handa to yi na za de khare. Handa ani neam de kya video ka so peje ani khare. Handa zamling de tang azo ani yarge du reves ne gi ra. Chiwa de da ani dewa chine tang res ne thegit.
He when we look at the bottom, it says at the bottom it shows like 2021 February to June. So this is during the pandemic. He thinks the question was if the world will get better. So people were in the pandemic. So he thinks that that sort of question were asked, and that this survey data was collected through that question.
That's a very good inference. So he was finding clues in this graph to understand the context.
Persh dela ti de ta persh tina na kari chike deshe jadu dela ta de ta ani dege kapta ngede kari ba dela ya phala ya koge jeba cheshas te ya udus.
Ne sungen chiksona
알레라서 아니 가르스는 단당 아주 자가제 나이지리아제 모로코 코숨데 망보 받으서게 아니 다 좀블이 야제 두고요레 생각했어 디인데 땅 아주 카텔라나 자가제 나이지리아제 모로코도서 망치 안으로 직냐르게 벤조치 야제 영에 망치 gem반으로 야서레서서치 아니 셴바 정거도서는 망치 로춘주도서 수수 벤정 내도 야고야서레서 직소소 미츠노라 디디젠다 소소 미츠리 시샤네 라용그로 Tindi that jaga Nigeria Morocco this on lo shimba the something pension to jobo de chanya jasa chana shimbal to the geometro society dos.
From their discussion, what they found is in India and Nigeria and Morocco, pretty much the elder generation, 40 plus, say they are hopeful for future. And the other countries, mostly the younger generations, say they are hopeful. What they think is because the economic status or the wealth of the people, and they may think like in those three countries, the elders 40 plus are like economically sufficient or wealthier than the younger ones. Then the other countries, other countries may be like the younger generations are economically sufficient, or they have more wealth than the elder generations that they can. That is what they just make conclusion from looking at this graph.
Yes, so this is a nice example where we might draw on our prior knowledge or our suspicions, where we might need to go and collect additional information to better interpret and make conclusions from the graph.
That this number daily comes and suge tandagi parish daily any tadu yago chiyong chito and suka sureda ngomagi shisha do pechu tana kore tim sing asuga that techum yoya chorwa techum yoya titla pechu tang dete ane ko that dinner do gi deshe jala ya ngasu tando imbana ya changtu mambu go do se the changtu mambu drichi gi tuya gi ne ta chungwa otina yongres.
Okay, maybe we can move on.
No.
Oops. You want to just, you can make a lot of inferences from this graph as we just showed. These are just a couple of examples. They're not the only inferences. So one is that one might infer that younger people appear to be more hopeful than older people. Another one is that any of those countries right on that line, which is the 50-50 line. So for a few examples, India, Nigeria, Morocco. So it's young and old people in those countries are almost equally likely to believe the world is getting better.
Tanda dele koge jepa ta chitangi bana da mampo shuchi ayo stande na nga su ge yang ko jepa ni pe chun shi ba bana tampo te mi gemba le mi shemba tin zaman de chelo solution thala ya riwa du se te riwa chimbu chi du se te res nya de la ya danda pichi do ga jima ge te te ja sha nga chunga chi ge te te res ta ja sha nga chunga chi ge te ta ta nyu yo chi ge jakob te ta na la ya ani jakarta Nigeria ta mo ko tu na la ya ani mi genshu yegi ani zaman de jila drudu se ti ichi halam racho chi ba dela ma chu japa china titus
No, today I just say one thing, you know, and then those paril te wada na sang ora ta ga ju ngose khari thobe na dil ya thona china kap depend ho to wala dinali mena tik depend ho da tik di ki ta chezam chega ta da sha do wala tik di kala khajat tik di ki yanji gangle yenge dige chasa shomba dige dige ta rewa che do rewa sanga do che tik di wall yenge to gemba mi lo gemba jora shibju yandab ki nya tabling de sanga chol do rewa che jora tadi an tik de le khajat ta nye yo ne an kunyi ni to lo shibju yandab da jonga de ni sabji parani ki thanga di chibo yo ro shi 다랑 티 다랑 다 미주 망고지 두두도 도알 다디 이쇼 삼스라 근데 디 x 다 y 니디 미기 로 멤버체 그것도 gadget 되는 것도 알아 로 하고 거 말로 gadget 니세가 디다 로 총화 인식에 십주 시행아 납주 가리 인식으로 디주 뜻이부터 열어 대다 아니 당연히 니주 사고 그룹 제주로 디 개정벌에서 남녀 리서치 리zam바 인지민지 벤자션 또 건조의 냠지 이거 미동다 인사질 제도 tadi gegab di mi thang thon to res lo ship yan thang thon to re mar la sharo tadi number to jima nyamship nang le patient di le sample jora ki population di thon to ye me di ni injiminji si ko ko tadi population di thon madu na di thang to kar dyo be na tadi sentence chag marwal okay
Were you just talking about how to read the graph?
Yeah, and then if they need additional information about relation between sample and population, just to make sure. Yeah.
Okay, so what we've hopefully convinced you so far is that visual problem solving is important because it can allow learners to interpret the concepts and it can allow the teachers and the learners to communicate concepts, either simple concepts or complex interdisciplinary concepts.
tanda dige tanda nga su perla tende ta kanyo se gi tablan de ta karishini ke chembore sena ane de ta gigen to lo pincha sombai bana ke changcha go ta tambo de bana nga su tatsu chi ko la na ro hotel ya ane ko ge pembe chigres anyo de la ya tatsu shiga ne chimpe chi jenda la pe chi pe gres ta dige tatsu kapso nga su tab de utina yong ko wa tab ti tatsu tab ti tina yong ko wa jembai bana yang ko nyongzang chenbu yo pa kansh la yang ko tobshi mangpo na tele pejo ta ju ta chu nyongzang chenbu tin da yo ro otina do ne pa la ya pengo res.
So today we've been talking about interpreting concepts through visual images, but you should also think about as a teacher how you can help your students create their own visual images.
ta tanda de kapsu nga su ge kari treshe je yo res na ane karsu gata par tinda la tinda de te nga su tatsu tinda do gua kandas lang gures tinda treshe ja yo res ne ta gigen chik ngo ga ne chisu kari ja yo res na su su lok tu la ya ane tinda do gi tatsu chomper chi ga par zoe chi wa zu gi chi ga ko kap tinda na yo res.
Okay, so the next slide, are you there? Okay, oops. Okay. Now what we want to talk about for the last part of class is how we can use visual images to show complex interdisciplinary stories. So I'm going to show an example that involves ecology, public health, an environmental science, and we'll talk about that in class. And in your laboratory session, you will explore a different example, but you will, similar to this, you will be using different images to create a story or a case study.
But and then the capsule bana ngarange no churi pata chitsuko tretin quick simchata nyam to titi tansa jugu netin chukola deshi jage inswa ani chitsu ani tashi khala distam da san shopa chitsu ge pansing mama saning ge zentra ta chitsu doala san satula dredge or ti capsa the data draw chi ke gala ya ani karsu ga tal habshi mampu chinyam to titi tan youtube ge ani data tandaw chuge ani cheguchi to progress.
Are you there, Tenzin? So in interdisciplinary or for interdisciplinary concepts, this is where they are all related to one another, and it's difficult to sort of tease them apart. They're so interconnected.
That tanda digi card songore na kol hopshi mambo yoba kanshila kutsu panchila then jawa hachan chambu yoza and din diresha slay you are judge gorwa so you are judge gorwa take a couple of grace.
Can go.
Yeah. So we're going to show you a series of images, and I think there are 4 images, and we want you to make observations about each image, make inferences about each image, then think about how the images relate to one another and how they can help you make sense or make an inference about a socio-scientific issue.
That dig chela ya chitula ya par kachidus then instead that tabi kapsirwa then becomes chitu par rede la ta dete par gane kare chitongo dos te gana ta observation wa ta she kare chongo dos ani par dig tapshi chonga tele ani chur par tila then deta chepa kare chit dos te jipa polo samtache then dig chela ya par samatan senu chela ya par data ka pan tensila ya jawa kare dos kuchu parula jawa kare dos wa ani data jawa ta nyam te deba imbana tege nga su chitsotan rebi chen ka nai tung ko kola ani goa kana ro chik dos te la samatan chis.
Okay, so I want you to just think, I'm going to describe each of these photographs, and then there are 4 images, and then we'll talk about how they relate to one another. So this is a photograph of a female mosquito, and it's a close-up, and she's sitting on someone's skin. So I can see that she's got her mouth part, it looks like a straw inside of the skin, and I can see that her belly is full of blood. Okay, maybe we can go to the next picture. And here, I don't know if anyone knows what this is. This is a picture of the immature mosquito. This means the mosquito before, the mosquito when it's still living in the water. And you'll see that there are 2 types of shapes there. There are some skinny shapes and then some fat, dark shapes. So these, the mosquito egg hatches and it becomes a larva. That's the skinny shape. And that's when it's feeding on nutrients in the water. And when it's ready to become an adult and fly out of the water, it becomes a pupa. That's the dark stage. It's not feeding at that time. It's developing its wings inside of that.
That did the road, and then I tell a campus to a thing. So, that to draw my child Milas, or that could tampo de la Tiggy, Pupag capsulated, Secretary Capsule, Sunny, that a yearly situated land, and could salon chungu or what. Teacher, and the Dela and John John, which is not for us to what take a resena, and I took it Hamburg in Nicabres, that take up, who is put it salon chong, they don't have a map, trigger one, but on the Tante Chagiris.
Okay. So here is a graph, and this is showing malaria cases per 100,000 people by country. And this was, it says latest data, but it was in 2004, if I look in the bottom part of the graph.
Malaria to Katsu Pati, Tami Bum Chickenalaya, Tonto Katsu Pati, take it to the Dinalaya Kuseta, this is Shadows, that Tonto at the Niche Tonto insect die. In a Koge, he shook was the Lataba in Baina, and a Ton Shigich that Tampona to Dangerous.
Okay, and the last image here is showing the photographs of 3 different species of mosquito. So there are well, this is the genus, but so there's Culex, Aedes, and Anopheles.
Dangi Kugeta, Jimano Suchi, Mutuchisha, Tambo collects one yodi, Aedes was somebody, Anopheles, Kugeta, Jimano, some years.
And what I can tell from this image is that each of these types of mosquitoes transmit different types of diseases, and they each live in different types of environments.
That they capsules to get Jimanda was really Latabai Pina, and it could soon Nesa Tuni Chisaya, Amanda Wache, and it Timothy get touching chaplet Natsag ritual, or could soon Gugichi, Natsag Amanda.
So here you might imagine that sometimes people think that the mosquito that transmits malaria likes dirty water, but here we discovered that it likes clean water.
Malaria, Gugichi, to dance or what is in by now. Chin Zobu and Yokula go your some grace in Banatanda didn't also have poetic resena, malaria chingu chinigi, tachigi chinigi to Dante in Bina, and Chutsamagna there go your race.
So when we ask our students to look at all of these images, we can ask them to help either make a collective inference or to explain how is it how we can explain the where the prevalence of malaria is and what inferences we can make about what mosquitoes are there.
That part the doctor and the don't hotel at Ampuche de Caris and they thought Chum Dumgani, and Chum Dumgani could some yam to Canada, which don't the Canada which you could check to say data. Yana as we Chenda Chicariche or Resena, they get Tandagita malaria, take all a chapdesha, and malaria chepa chinigi to done such a call to such or they call an Atsugan Chepa.
So what we are trying to encourage you to do is to use images to share content with your students, but also to invite them to ask questions and to wonder how all of these pieces go together.
Tanda par dinda peche tanga de te ngaso riwa chati kana chechu lopile tripi kapsa tampo te la ya ta ko jesha chika mutu jigarwa ta netun chupan deshi jigarwa ani tegi jelaya kutsu nangkulaya jiga jwa dangya dang jiga karsugwe ta samyu nangni tongzhil haya dang ani jiga tandagi parde ta imbayna ku parir kashi yuchidu nangoni kutsula yan jwa kanda lo china sen jwa dogaya jigarwa uteta kashawa te dribu jigu waris.
Okay, so I'm going to, in the next slide, show you how we can use these to create a visual model of this. Is case study an easy, I don't know if that's an easy word to translate, but how to create a visual model of these images.
Hanta tanda degi jela ya ngaso par tita tende te ngaso ta pitsun shichep segro atege ta yamana ngaso ge ta pergi physics those zogins.
Okay, so I might tell the students there are many different types of mosquitoes.
Da kare motor chingin sena tela ya tudanga rig mando mambo yores.
Only some of those mosquitoes transmit the malaria parasite.
Da tudang kashi chike ane malaria ge nambulte phala ya ni jito chigres.
The immature malaria mosquitoes live in clean pools of water.
Malaria changan ge chalong chuma pe tudang deta ane chu ta chuchi tamag nala ya chudu chigres.
Adult mosquitoes feed on blood, which helps them reproduce, but then they spread the malaria parasite to people.
That tudang tarmat is in bana mig chala tene deta kuchwa chigres tila tene deta kuchuge chepeya chigres ne ti chela ya kuchugeta kasugeta te asuge malaria ge tichwaro nasati oro tingu chigres patse chepetongres.
The malaria is a disease that's most commonly found in the tropics.
Tanda malaria sayati ani ngatsu chawisa kusugro ta chawisa kula ya ani jiga yongcha big nasa chires.
And so people in tropical countries should check their clean pools of water for immature mosquitoes in order to prevent malaria.
Da tige chawisa kugi me bayna ani malaria te ko goyagi chetro ngombo chegi cheto kutsu karila ta kure sena ani chu changma chichu changma tindala ya tignala ani tanda ka ko ta chalong chong me pe malaria tu yo me tela ya tak taksi chigu yores.
Actually, this is an example I'm bringing up because for those of you who are interested in research, you can, this is a project that you can do, research project around the monasteries by checking the water for malaria, for this mosquito larvae, immature mosquitoes.
Keti chechu nala ya ki ya taksi 심지 지야라야 에 도노 유니 드나요 바이나 치수게 아니 범바게 닌담라야 티고 콜라야 tak시치나 디코리스 콤바니언라 유튜브 추티나도 나라야 아니 티가스 추치 자마디나도 나라야 아니 두장와 두장 살론 좀에 두장게 심부디나 도문도 살초와 어디라야 아니 유메텔라 tak시쳐요레스.
So in your laboratory session, you will get a separate set of images and you will be practicing creating your own visual case study.
That and that's a tactical hunting and all. What take a capsule any Pershi Yanko Dinson Shenda Chikuchigres, that being Tambalai, Perdit of the Chitan data and Chitu the Pitsun Shishige Zotantina Wichikolai, John the Chigres.
So Tenzin, how should we open this up and ask if anybody has questions, or do you think we should describe any of the images that they'll be looking at in lab?
I think now instruction is quite clear.
Yeah.
Maybe if they have any other questions about visual learning. Numbers of the numbers of sorting super jura sang shop so the any par kaje deal teche numbers of the rooms and that dine kar calling to chip to be roll. Any that did on the numbers of chivoyana. sharing.
I think group 6.
Ni tiwa di tege di jagado janga shimba so yaje sudre se lo chuchulu chiponi shigda. Di kozo ge tunde na pena jagano chance anche lo gemba de so ge ya ani karse gore tan zombli di yaje dugu sengira sto. Ani janga shimba de manche lo shimba de so ge ani janga yaje dugu se nyero. Di ge lo chuchu ge sono lo kebado. Di tanda di shunju di tone tunde ngone ra de kharda nyewe nas. Kozo di junsen ra ke raya na menas.
Looking at the graph about people who are hopeful for future, we want to look at that. Look like in India and some of the other countries, elder generations say they are more hopeful for future, and the other countries, the younger generations, the similar thing. But so he's wondering what is the result of that case study.
That is a good, so I want you to imagine you're the teacher and you showed this graph, and if your student asked that question, how would you respond?
It's difficult to guess, so I would say I need more information. I will find out and I will tell you later.
I like half of that answer, not the whole answer. I would say it's difficult to find out. And so as the teacher, how can I help you as the student find the answer? Remember, our job is just to facilitate the learner finding information. Your job is not to be Mr. or Mrs. Google.
Gigen chimbi nga su chani gigen ge ko ta le ka tampo ti chode kar resana timba lotula ya nga su ge ta chi lamtin che ta ram che timba istambala ya ani ko la ya te ade ko khasu ta shu kar su ta ngo su to bo ga na dina ko la ti kimi du sta choran gu mo ne lo picharon wo ne wa cha chambu chi la ya nga na wo ne chi ro cho kari chi go ndu se de se go res tamba nga su gigen wo ne gigen te 아니 그샷당 참그시 고것도 차바지는 지금 말이스타 텔레카테 팔아야 popular 가지고람도 난고요 에스카카지고요.
So remember, the teacher does not have to know the answer to every question. Our job is to facilitate and help the learner discover information. And so if some of you are nervous that you don't know all the facts, you should not be nervous about that. You can work with your students to find the answers.
Tatanda kapsi chesu ngi gwa kare sana nga chu gigenchi imbi chani ane trilan chama ha ku gwa ta ane hama ko ne shena chi gwa tinda yo mare swa instambala ya ane nga chu gigengi tas gwa ta gigengi leka chu ta nande kapsi ta tunjur chia terwa tunjur chia tin instambala ya chege lhok tu la ya ko lhokjung chia de la ya ramda kana ro chi chi do tunje kana ro chi jot ku do sa churwa ko ge mitsu sawa dulen chia re mitsu sawa shia la ya 아니 로란탄 tunjokan을 놓치고 되가라야 상못한 거예요스.
고문들 라게.
Unmute.
어디 두란 나자지도. 어디 드리자 gemado wal 두란 나자 쇼 잡되더라. Shazan di kashelana di esig chujiwa. Di tone ligir la dinda da sidan yan chunyo tone ligir la mangbujidura. Sidan di tukdang yongdan de khande res ani di color kaya ki tafshiru khari yore digitally.
We have in the monastery areas we have lots of diseases related to mosquitoes, and some are saying that mosquito breed in the water pool that is produced from the AC from the from AC unit.
Oh.
And, because in India with that AC
Yeah,
unit,
it drips.
a lot of drips, yes, and some people are saying this it breed in the muddy waters, really dirty water. So how they breed or reproduce themselves, and what are the methods to stop the mosquito production and also the disease transmissions by mosquitoes.
Yes, again, I'm so excited. That means the image got you thinking, and now you're curious. So again, as a teacher, I'm happy because you're interested in the topic and the content. So think about the power of using images to get your students thinking and asking questions.
Tanga gigenjin bichane tanda chuate tamba te pe gau chang sang karchila ba ina nga su gi zu de ne lokchila ya paris ten de te parila ya ten de ta su lokchila ane samlu tang de chiga tang samlu tang me se chuan dong bi chiga tang ane jema tigi jela kar kar chi bu sa ya gi chi charge tang la so pala phengyo resistance tamba la ya ne che chu ne ba na ya chung zin de typical sa parila ten de te lokchila tuno leg chiga tang tuno chi chiga tang tondre leg chiga ten ro nang res.
So I want to end the session by encouraging all of you future science teachers to think about what graphs and photographs that you can use to get your students asking questions and wondering things.
Tanda de yu thomchen de jitum ma chi ngwe la ya chi chu ta maung pe gi chen ri ni pa ton chen ri gi chi chu chomba bai na thop tu su ge donang la ya ta de gi che tu ro donang la ya ta ani chi dong zhe ji ya ta ani dina do che to chi rang ge ani par ri tang thi ri kan da do chi chi tang ye de sti ko la ya sam da chi.
Okay, and I want to just say that if any of the on-site instructors want to stay for 1 minute, I'll just talk to you about if you have questions about the images for the laboratory. But otherwise, I think we can finish today's class.
Na terang lomchen do sitre ba yin sane sane sa thola thinjo ma ni gela kha chi ro ani che chu la jwa tin da ye pa yin bai na ani dan dai te je la ye che chu la par kha chi ro san sho pa che che to par te ko la tro yo bai na de je la kama kha chi chi ro chis te me da shen da sa ma la jin da de tro ba yin
no ani ni di chi chuen Google Classroom nang lo la ka ji wa chi sa sho la jin na la na ji wa ji ni chong sha na mo ji wa yin na jin na li ya ji wa jin na na nga sa ni para chi tu su tuen shen len ke bi ku na lo ji wa ka ri yin na mo ji den na yin na pa na pa ti ro chi